All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. If you're just tuning in at the end of November, we are pretty much wrapping up a crazy busy month, about 60 live events connecting classrooms with scientists, adventurers, explorers, and conservationists from all around the world. We've just launched our December events. If you head over to exploringbytheseat.com, you can find that listing there and register for some of those events. Now, today's event is part of our ongoing series with the Royal Canadian Geographical Society and Canadian Geographic called Explore Can. So we've been connecting with all kinds of great scientists, explorers from across Canada and learning about different aspects of the country and applying it to the world. So if you do want to check out some of the events that we do have coming up, you can visit this website here. So on exploringbytheseat.com, you can see the English events are there, Explore Can, and then we have our French events as well, Explorons Can. So you can find those events there, or just check under the special events to find those ones that are coming up. All right, let's jump to today's speaker. We've got Ray Zahab joining us today. He is a Canadian explorer, ultra-distance runner, and founder of the nonprofit Impossible to Possible. He's a recent recipient of the Meritorious Service Cross of Canada. He's an explorer of residence with the Royal Canadian Geographical Society and also a fellow. In 2015, he was recognized as one of Canada's top explorers. He's run over 17,000 kilometers across the world's desert and on unsupported expeditions to some of the coldest places on the planet. I'm going to bring Ray in with us now. Hey, Ray, how you doing?
Good. Great to be here, Joe. Hey, everyone.
All right, Ray, it's always great to have a chance to catch up and have you live on camera with us. I'm going to let you take over for a little bit because I know we're going to save lots of time for Q&A action.
Yes, let's do that. Okay, so I am going to see if I can press the buttons right. Am I sharing my screen right now?
Yeah, we got it up there. We just need to go full.
Did that work?
Perfect. We got it.
Everyone, I am an explorer. And so I guess that fits perfectly with these types of presentations that have been happening. 60 presentations. I can't believe that there's been so many. So you're all learning so much and you're all explorers on your own into these different places that you get to go and learn about. So that basically is what I love to do as my job as an explorer. I spend a tremendous amount of my time on my feet crossing some of the hottest and coldest regions of the planet. So some people say it's ultra running, like I'm an ultra runner. And I choose to say, well, you know what? It sort of is. I mean, I do run a ton, like literally 17,000 kilometers at last count across all of the deserts and many of the colder parts of the planet. But at the end of the day, I love journeying across these places and exploring and learning about these places and the people I meet by going on foot, because it really is a way to immerse myself in the places that I'm in and take the time to be able to capture some of the images and stories of the people that live in these places, or sometimes just the dramatic landscapes and skies like you see in this photo in Death Valley, California. This photo was shot this past July as I was going from north to south through the middle of the Death Valley Basin at world record temperatures. It was so hot when I took this photo of the nighttime sky. I was thinking, the sky looks like it's on fire. When I'm crossing deserts, these hot deserts all over the planet, I can't possibly carry all the water that I would need to do the entire expedition. So I rely on a team. In other words, I am supported. I do two different types of expeditions. I do supported and I do unsupported. Supported, an example of that is this photo. This photo was taken by a good buddy of mine, John, and he's a National Geographic photographer. He's just this amazing guy who takes amazing photos, but he's also one of my best friends. And he's there to support me on desert expeditions by handing me a bottle of water every 30 kilometers or so. See you later, Ray. And then he gets a picture like he did here of me leaving a checkpoint en route through those sand dunes in the Namib Desert. So in this photo, this is partway through a 1,850 kilometer run from South Africa towards Angola across the Namibian desert. And as I make my way, I navigate using GPS and I use maps, and I'm very careful about the time of day that I'm moving because there's wildlife everywhere like lions and baboons and all that stuff. So I'm moving during the day, and every 20 to 30 kilometers, trying to run 70 kilometers every day, I meet up with John and a few other team members who help to keep me resupplied, keep me hydrated, keep me going. But at the other end of the thermometer, there are the Arctic expeditions. So I'm just as fascinated by the coldest places on Earth. And the place that truly I love the most to visit is the Canadian Arctic. Although I'm not as fussy about the cold, I love the Arctic. And what better way to make your way through the Arctic than completely unsupported, which means everything I need to do and live from is contained in that sled that I'm dragging. And all of the water that I need, nobody needs to hand me a water bottle because there's water all around me in the form of ice and snow. So although it's minus 50, even minus 60, I'm able to melt the snow with a stove at camp each night and make all the water that I need to be able to do the expedition. Now, I mean, sometimes there's a mix of both, right? Here I am in the desert carrying an umbrella, which one would think would be to protect me from the rain. I wish there was water out here. But again, supported on this expedition using the umbrella to protect me from the sun. There's no precipitation. But flip side, over to unsupported, photo of me in Russia with my buddy Stefano, 20 days in the mountains of Kamchatka in the middle of winter. And we had so much water all around us that was the one thing we never had a lack of because there's tons of snow, as you can see in that photo. And we had everything else that we needed to live in those sleds dragged right behind us the entire way. So I love to do two styles of expeditions. I love to capture images like this and transport classrooms all around the world while I'm on expeditions back to meet and the images of my expeditions into their classrooms so that they can be part of my expedition as teammates. So I'm going to take your questions. This is because I know many of you use social media these days, and these are websites. Everybody's on the web these days. So if you have questions further, maybe I don't get to your question today, or you want to learn more, see some more really cool photos and see some neat stories about our youth expeditions with Impossible to Possible, you can do all that with these social media links. And with that, I think I'm going to do this right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to go to Q&A.
There you go, Ray. You did it. All right.
Technology.
Thank you so much for sharing a few of those images from some of the incredible places you visited, you've explored, particularly the Canadian Arctic, which I think a lot of us are thinking about, but we're kind of far removed from. And one place from looking at your bio that seems to come up over and over again is Baffin Island, a place that you've visited many times, you've crossed many times. How many times have you crossed Baffin Island now?
Well, some of those photos, those earlier photos that I showed in the first few slides that I showed were from Baffin Island. So those were some of the 9 times that I've crossed Baffin Island at this point. And every time I cross it, it's so mesmerizing and beautiful. To me, the most beautiful place on Earth. And I've been in 75 different countries, I think at last count. And I say to myself every time, oh, I have so many good friends up there in Kikik-Tarjuak and in Pengertung and in the area. And I think, okay, I'm just coming up for a visit next time. I'm never going to cross Baffin Island again. And then the next year comes and I'm crossing Baffin Island again because I love it so much.
All right. One of those places you just can't escape from. It's part of you.
Yep.
Excuse me. Okay. Let's start meeting some of our live classrooms. So those who are tuning in via YouTube, use that chat sidebar. I see lots of questions already coming in. So work those in there. And then our live classrooms, let's start visiting a few of them. So I'm going to do a quick round of some questions. We're going to do a quick Kahoot quiz as well after a few questions, and then we'll dive back into questions. So let's see here. Let's start. Let's go to Sudbury, Ontario. Some 4th and 5th graders hanging out with Mr. Dunn. I'm going to bring that crew in right now. There they are.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Sudbury. How are we doing?
Hey, wave to Ray, guys. There we
guys.
go. Okay. How you doing, Ray?
Great. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Brianna had a question today for you, so I'm going to pass it on to her.
Okay.
What was your favorite place you went to explore and why?
My favorite place that I went to explore.
And why?
And why? Well, you know what? It's a great question. But I think the answer lies in the conversation that Joe and I were just having. I love visiting the Canadian Arctic. And I encourage all of you that when you start doing your own travels and you're making your way, Canada, go north. I mean, there's just such an amazing place to visit and learn about. So Baffin Island in the Canadian Arctic, I think for me, so far, has been the most incredible place I've ever been. And then if we're going on a top 3, I would say Niger, Africa. The massive sand dunes are the size of mountains. And probably the Amazon in Brazil is just incredible because of its biodiversity.
All right. We're going to give the classes a little bit of homework right away. That's after this call. Spend a little time on Google Earth and explore some of those places that Ray's been talking about. All right. Let's jump to another live classroom. Let us go to, let's go to Hamilton this time. Miss Hicks' class is hanging out with us. Let me bring them live into the call. There they are. Hey, Hamilton.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hey, everyone.
Wave, everybody wave. It's okay, you can wave. I've got shy grade 8s here, but the questions are just pouring in. It's going to be hard to narrow it down. So, Ray, they want to know, how old were you when you became interested in adventure and exploring? And what was your very first adventure or exploration that you did?
Ooh, that's such a great question. Okay, so I was 30 when I'm 52, and I was 30 when I started doing all of this. So I really wasn't involved in sports of any kind before I was 30. And my first adventure, my first ultra marathon that I ran, and I had done a lot of adventure racing and mountain bike racing in the early years of, 31, 32, 33 years of age, 34. But the first ultra marathon I did, I ran 100 miles, 160 kilometers in the Yukon in a race called the Yukon Arctic Ultra. So that, I would say, would be my first kind of adventure where it was all running involved.
All right. I'm going to give a few shout outs here to YouTube. We've got a great crew joining us right now. We've got Miss Neely's group in Kincardine, Miss Dykstra's class in Guelph, the Water Rockers. Looks like another crew in Nova Scotia, Waterloo region with Mr. Hugh Miller, Thunder Bay, Mr. McGill, Calgary, Alberta with Miss Lipinski. Let's see, another Guelph area, Miss Nagel. So keep those intros coming in. But let's grab one of the questions here that's come in online so far. So Miss Dykstra's Water Rockers would like to know about maybe the scariest or, most threatening moment maybe you've had on an expedition.
Go Water Rockers. I know them very well. I'm a super fan of yours. Let's see. I've had so many close calls. I've been chased by wild boars on 2 different continents, which is something I love to throw in every presentation because, how often is that going to happen in your life, right? I broke through ice on a river in the Canadian Arctic on an expedition in 2016, and I was almost washed away under the ice. That had to be the scariest moment of any expedition that I've been on. But luckily, I was able to get back out of that water and speak to you today. So here I am. That was close.
All right. Well, and I guess that's all part of the journey, part of the expedition. You plan as much as you can, but you also have to be flexible and ready for the unexpected.
Absolutely, Joe. 100%.
Okay. Let's jump to another live crew. Let's go to Mr. Shattuck's class. They are in Chalk River. Let's bring them in. Where are they hiding on me? There they are. Hey, Chalk River.
What would happen if you ran out of something?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Well, if I ran out of something on an expedition, if I'm in the desert, it can be quite dangerous to run out of water when it's 50 to 55 degrees Celsius, right? So if I'm in a section where I don't have support, I'm in the middle of sand dunes or I'm crossing a deep canyon where nobody can get to me, it could be quite detrimental. But I plan as much as I can every single day that I'm on an expedition so that I know what I'm getting into. And in a case of a desert expedition, I always bring extra with me so that I, in my mind, say, okay, I've got everything on my back to survive an entire day if something goes wrong and I'm left out there for whatever reason. On an Arctic expedition, you do not, especially if it's unsupported, you don't want to forget anything. Now, worst case scenario, I would have to take what's called a resupply, but that could be complicated for people to reach me. So I believe in self-sufficiency. If I'm choosing to go into the Arctic unsupported in winter, or any one of the other cold regions that I've been to, Antarctica, to the South Pole, or Siberia, I plan like crazy so that I know I can get from point A to point B as safely as possible with everything I need.
All right, let's bring in another crew here. Miss Oak's crew is joining us all the way from Minnesota today. How are we doing, boys and girls?
Yeah. So, yeah, I had a question. How do you acquire the courage to go on these extreme long runs, sometimes for thousands of kilometers? So what gives you the courage to do these extreme and long runs?
So many great questions today. Well, guess what? You have the same courage in you to do what it is that I do. What I discovered from running, and I like to say that running has been my greatest teacher, is it's taught me that we tend to underestimate what we can do physically and mentally and emotionally, that every one of us is capable of doing some pretty extraordinary things in our life if we're willing to really give it a shot. So the courage kind of comes with the experience, and it comes with the confidence in making a decision. See, I find when somebody writes a book or composes a piece of music or makes art, so courageous to be able to make what it is that they do and express themselves and then show the world. But then I have friends that are artists who say to me, yeah, but you know what? Once you step out there and you do it for the first time and you're doing something that you're passionate about and you love, the courage just kind of comes. It's just sort of there. So in short, I think it's something that's in every one of us. Doesn't mean that I have a special ability to be courageous to do these things. It's just that I love what I do. And I've discovered that I can do these things and that the courage comes after, and you have it too.
All right, let's bring in Mrs. Salmon and Miss Reed's second grader. Hey, how are we doing?
Wait, look here. Look here. Max, come up.
Hey, everyone.
I have a question for you. What is your most excitingest adventure?
Your proudest event. Right.
Okay, the most excitingest, which is a word I love, adventure that I have been on would be, and I've had many, so you've stumped me. It's such a good question. I would have to say when we ran across the Sahara Desert, it was 7,500 kilometers, and I think you probably know how long and big that is. That's like the size of Canada, basically. 7,500 kilometers across the sands of the Sahara. And what was so exciting to me was that I never knew if I was going to meet people or not in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And what I mean by that is every now and then we would all of a sudden come into contact with people who were crossing the desert so far away, out there on their own, just them and their families. And we would meet people and connect and learn from the people who live in the Sahara. And it was always so exciting for me to see what I would learn next and who I would meet next in a place that you would think no one would live, but there's people out there. So that was the most exciting thing for me.
All right, we're going to take a little trip out to New Brunswick. We can't leave our Deer Island grade 3-4s out. Hey, everyone, how are we doing?
How do you,
Hey, really good. Hold on. Go on, stand up. Go ahead.
how do you go on such dangerous adventures? Like how are you able to survive for so long without getting like attacked? I mean, do you know about the wildlife where you go? Like do you study them?
That is such a great question. You know what? I do. I do study the wildlife. And like, take, for example, the Arctic. In going to the Arctic, I have many friends that live in the Arctic, and I learn from them about different elements, different components of the Arctic. For example, the extreme weather and wind patterns and temperature and how to deal with the cold, what to eat, what not to eat. And then, of course, the wildlife. Polar bears, when are they most active? Where are they going to be? And, you know, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to learn from friends of mine before doing expeditions, people that live in these places, that have been born in these places, that know these places. And I am just a visitor. So I must respect the area that I'm visiting. Doesn't matter where in the world it is. And part of that component of respect is learning about the wildlife, as you say, and being as prepared as I possibly can be to go into these places.
All right, Ray, we're going to give a little interactive break now. I'm going to load up a Kahoot quiz. While you were presenting, I pulled together a few questions for our classes. So I'm going to put the link up here, kahoot.it. If you visit that site, it's going to ask you for a PIN code, and I'm going to share one of those with you very shortly. Let me share my screen. Let's do that right now and get that code out to all of the classrooms. Let's see. Let's do the entire screen today. Okay, so your code's up there right now. It's 901-8841. If you're lucky enough to have one-to-one tech at your desk, maybe a tablet or a Chromebook, you can join individually. If you don't, then your teacher can pop it up at the front of the room, and you guys can shout out the answers to him or her. Worst comes to worst, you can just play along in your classroom and shout the answers out and see how well you do. So we'll give a few moments here for a few more students to join us. I see a few classrooms, teacher names there. I see some individual students coming to join us. We're going to have 4 questions, multiple choice. You get the right answer, you're going to get some points. The quicker you get that right answer, the more points you're going to get. If you get the right answer really fast, well, we got nothing for you. So let's give it a few more moments here for a few more students, a few more teachers to join. All right, let's take it live. There's a few more trickling in, but let's get it going. First question coming up. Number 1, what is the name of Ray's nonprofit? Was it Just Do It? Was it Impossible to Possible? Was it Into the Wild? Or is it Explore Can? Who remembers? We talked about it right at the very beginning. Ray mentioned it. We talked about it in the intro. Who remembers the name of the nonprofit?
This is just so cool.
Yeah, we like having a little interactive action. And most of the students went Impossible to Possible.
Yeah.
And Lily's in the lead, but just by a little bit. So anything can change. Let's jump into our next question. Why does Ray love moving on foot through places? Was it to stay fit? Was it to immerse himself in the location? Or is it because he doesn't have a car? Which one? Who remembers what Ray said? What's that big reason why he loves moving on foot through these amazing places around the world? All right. Most students went with to immerse himself into the location. And what a good reason to meet people, to really experience somewhere. Lily's holding down the fort still. Let's go to question 3. About how far have Ray's feet taken him on expeditions? Was it 5,000, about 10,000 kilometers, around 17,000, or around 24,000 kilometers? Got about 5 more seconds on the clock. All right. Good job to our crew. 17,000 kilometers approximately. And Lily is holding. She might just take this tape to tape today, Ray.
Wow.
We'll see what happens. Anything can happen on the fourth and final question.
Top three both have L. All their names start with L.
Very cool.
I just noticed that. You see, I'm very observational.
How many times has Ray crossed Baffin Island? Was that 4, 11, 5, or 9 times?
We got to get this one right. I want to see 100% on this one. I'm going for 100%.
I'm hoping for 100% too. Sometimes, though, that urge to be the fastest can get some students.
Ooh, that's
not too bad, not too bad. 58 students went with 9. So we can now take a look at our final leaderboard. Let's see how things shook out. Oh, the L's. We've lost our straight L's. Helen is taken 3rd. Lydia is in 2nd. Oh, and Liam at the last minute sneaks in and steals the victory.
Wow.
All right. Very cool. Well, huge shout out to our classrooms. Thanks for taking that little interactive break with us. Let us jump now into more Q&A action because we've got that luxury. Ray, I'm going to grab one here from YouTube. We've got lots of questions coming in here via YouTube.
Awesome.
Let's see. Okay. Miss Neely's crew's in King Carden, and they're curious about your health in these extreme conditions. What kind of things are you doing to monitor your health?
Ooh, really good question. So I prepare and train as much as I possibly can to be as fit and prepared for where I'm going. Also, an interesting component of my preparation is that the foods I'll be eating on my expedition or the style of eating. So for example, if I'm in a cold weather Arctic expedition, I tend to eat a higher fat diet because I get more calories per gram in the fat. So at home, when I'm training, I trend towards a higher fat diet so that I'm super prepared while I'm, preparing for my expedition. I'm super prepared for the diet that I'll be eating on the expedition. So I try to be as fit as I possibly can going into the expedition. And then if there's injuries along the way, or if we need medications or something like that for an emergency, we tend to bring all of those things with us in a sort of first aid kit on an Arctic expedition. And then in the desert expeditions, we're relying on that crew. So there you go.
All right. Well, we're going to blitz through a lightning round of our camera classroom. So out of order this time. Be ready. Be on your toes. Here we go. Let's start with our second graders. Let's bring them back in.
Woo!
Hey, second graders.
Everybody wave. Let's
Hey, wave.
Are we asking a question?
If you've got one, we're ready.
Are they? Oh, we do. Evelyn, quickly. Yes, we have. We don't think we heard this answer, so we'll ask this one.
Okay.
Nice and much.
Why did you start going on these adventures?
Why did you start going on
Why
these
did
adventures in the first place?
Oh, that's a good question. I started doing adventures because, well, how can I put this in the easiest way? My younger brother, was already an adventurer, and he compelled me. He chose to show me some of the things that he was doing, and he inspired me. And I was so inspired by the fact that he took the time to want to show me these things, and that he was so passionate and excited about the things that he was doing, that I decided that I too would like to go from an unhealthy lifestyle to someone who was healthier and learning new things and passionate about things. And so that's why I started doing adventures and expeditions. And it's just, I keep learning. I find that when we are excited about learning and we open our minds to the possibilities, that we learn things not only about the subject we're studying or about the world around us, but we learn about ourselves. And I know that's sort of a deep thing to think about, but it's like we learn that we can be pretty excited every single day about life in general. So that's why I started adventures.
All right, let's go to Miss Oak's class. Here they are. Minnesota.
Have you ever wanted to quit your expedition because it was just too hard and you felt like you couldn't keep going?
Every single time. Every single time I've wanted to quit on the expedition one day or another. But, you know, when I'm there on expedition, I don't think about the end all the time. I think about one day at a time. So even on those hard days when I'm laying in my sleeping bag and I'm like, oh, I can't get out of my sleeping bag today, there's no way that I can get going forward. I know that something amazing might happen. I might meet someone. I might see something amazing. I'm going to connect to schools later in the day. Maybe I have a live video that day. There's going to be something in that day that's perhaps going to be awesome, and I don't want to miss out on it. So short answer, yes. Often I feel like there's no way I can do this. It's so hard. But there's only been a few times when I haven't been able to finish the expeditions, knock on wood. So I keep doing it and I keep loving doing it. And I try to convince myself on those bad days to keep going.
All right. I think that's some great advice and motivation for our students who might find themselves in bed some mornings and like, I don't want to go to school, but you know, who knows what could happen when you get up and who you're going to meet and what you're going to see and what you're going to learn. So there we go. Some inspiration to get up in the morning and get things going. Deer Island. Let's go out to Deer Island 3rd and 4th graders, see if they have another question for us.
Have you ever broke a world record?
Oh, wow. You know what? I did one time break a world record. And that was with my 2 teammates, Kevin and Richard. The 3 of us together broke the world record for the fastest to the South Pole. And it almost took 34 days. It took us exactly 33 days, 23 hours, and 55 minutes to go from the frozen ocean, which is Hercules Inlet, to the geographic South Pole, which is basically the top of the bottom of the world. Right there, right? And so, yeah, it's in the Guinness World Book of Records. I think it might still be in there, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
All right. Very cool. Well, this question inevitably comes up because this is something always on students' minds, whether we're talking to an astronaut or an ocean rower. This is from a crew of boys joining us in Nova Scotia in their class, and they want to know, how do you use the bathroom on expedition?
Oh, I knew that was the question. I was going to ask you if that was the question. Okay, so how do I use the bathroom? Hey, when you got to go, you got to go. And so if it's in like one of the deserts where, for example, there's that wildlife like rhinos and lions and baboons, you're going to the bathroom and you're doing one of these all the time. And then if it's on a cold Arctic expedition, hopefully your friend will make a wind block for you so that you can slouch behind your sled and get as much wind protection as you can and go to the bathroom. And then at night in the Arctic, we have a bottle in case we have to go and it's the A bottle. And so that's what you use. You keep one of those with you so that you don't have to exit the tent. You find ways to go.
All right. Well, I'm sure that puts many students at ease. I mean, we've all got to go. So there we go.
Gotta go.
Yeah. Mr. Dunn's crew, let's bring you back in. Looks like someone's waiting.
Yeah, Davis has a question for you.
What do you do if you get hurt when you're adventuring alone?
That's a really good question. So I tend to plan my expeditions more than I plan even my trip to my local grocery store up the road. So I really take as much into account as I can. But if I'm on my own and I'm injured, I have taken wilderness first aid courses in the past, and I try to do the best I can to recollect that information, to treat myself, or just being on so many expeditions, even more than stuff I've learned. Being on expeditions in the past with injuries, etc., I know how to treat those injuries. If it was an emergency situation and one needed to be evacuated, we have all of the satellite equipment with us, and we bring redundancies. In other words, we bring lots of extra gear that we don't really need, but we bring it just in case. And that enables us to make a quick call or, a rescue, a call for rescue, which is the last thing we want to do. So there you go.
All right. Lots of questions, lots of thinking about these expeditions going on. Chalk River, pop you in. I think I see someone front and center.
My question is,
What have you seen a rare animal on your adventures?
Oh, I've seen so many animals. I think, did you say rare animal? I'm going to just throw out some of the multiple animals. Obviously, seen polar bears. I have seen in my camp in Namibia when we were crossing the Namib Desert, I heard something outside my tent, and I poked my head outside my tent like this, and I saw one of the guys, one of my friends from Namibia, and he had his head outside the tent. He's looking at me, and he's making the motion, don't make a sound, don't make a sound. And there was a whole herd of elephants in our camp, like all around our tents. And basically he was saying, he told me the next morning, he said, had you made any noise, the elephants will just sort of flee and they'll trample whatever in their way. And so we would have been like elephant made pancakes, people pancakes, right? Had they ran through our camp. But I've seen giant snakes, giant spiders. I've seen all sorts of animals all over the world.
All right. And maybe, is there something that stands out as really rare?
It's really rare.
Yeah. You were like, wow, I can't believe.
Okay. I think the rarest potentially animal is ironically also one of the most beautiful I've ever seen. In the Amazon jungle one time, I was on a path, on a trail through the jungle, and there was this giant butterfly that flew in front of me. Now, I'm not sure how rare it is, but as far as I am concerned, I've never seen anything like this. And its wings were silver colored. Two of the wings were, and I forget what color the other two were, maybe blue. I can't remember. But the bottom ones were silver. And by silver, I mean like almost like reflective silver, like chrome. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. I was like, what? That's like a real butterfly? I couldn't believe it.
Very cool. Mrs. Hicks crew, let's bring you back in. Our lightning round is almost complete.
Okay, so because it's the lightning round, Ray, are you ready? We got lightning questions for you.
Yes.
Have you ever been to Everest?
No.
Do you speak other languages?
Yes.
Like?
French. And some Spanish.
And they want to know, what is your hygiene, but also your daily routine? Like, what time do you get up? How long do you move during the day? When do you go to sleep? Like, what is a day like for you on an adventure?
Okay, it all depends. All depends on the expedition, and it depends on the parameters of the expedition. So I go back to Namibia. In Namibia, we understood that the lions tended to hunt at dawn and dusk, and less so in the heat of the day. So I was moving during the heat of the day and avoiding dawn and dusk. I was at camp. On a winter expedition in the Arctic, when it's dark most of the time, we are moving on a set time. So up at 6 o'clock, and then give ourselves 2 hours to make coffee, which is very important to me, eat, pack camp up, and then get out the door, and then stop just as, night is night, but it's dark, is really setting in at around 4 p.m. and start setting up camp and be in and done and stove lit within 2 hours. So that's sort of how we bookend that. All
right. Well, shout out to Mrs. Hicks crew for really taking a good use of their lightning round. They got in some good questions there.
It sure did.
One more question from online. Miss Nagel's crew is wondering, 75 or so countries, where is there a flashing light, a beacon? Where are you drawn to where you'd really like to go? You haven't been.
Oh, where I haven't been. Where I haven't been, there are regions of the Amazon jungle that I would still love to go and visit. It's kind of like a beacon for me. And I've never been to New Zealand, and I would love to visit New Zealand someday. Maybe not on an expedition, but just on a vacation.
Oh, well, I can tell you from experience that New Zealand is amazing. Go in the winter and just do it by camper van, both islands. Wild. You'll have a lot of fun.
I'm going with Joe next time.
All right. Wicked. Well, I want to start off with a huge shout out to all of our classrooms on YouTube. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you for the Kahoot action. To our camera classrooms. Wow. Awesome questions. Great to see everybody. In fact, let's bring everybody in one more time for a big wave out here.
Hey, everybody, wave. Over here. Wave.
Everybody. And Ray, to you. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks for taking us on into your world and giving us a little bit of motivation.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, and everyone for having me on today and for answering those great questions. And I encourage you to find my website to watch. You can watch more videos, just my name, rayzahab.com, and find me on social media. I know that all of you young people are using it these days. You'll find me there. And on to the next adventure, everyone.
All right, everybody, and one more time to wave us out. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Thank you so much. And enjoy the rest of the week. Thanks, everyone.
Got a photo of all of you.